Rocky Marciano is a legendary name in boxing, known for his undefeated record, but what about the man behind the gloves? From his family life and kids to his upbringing and impressive net worth, we're diving deep into the personal story of this iconic heavyweight champion. Stay tuned as we uncover the life of Rocky Marciano. Rocky Marciano was an American professional boxer who competed from 1947 to 1955. He held the World Heavyweight Championship from 1952 to 1956, and remains the only heavyweight champion to finish his career undefeated. Born September 1, 1923, Brockton, Massachusetts, United States. Died August 31, 1969, age 45 years, Newton, Iowa, United States. Weight 85 kilograms. Division Heavyweight. Martial art Boxing. Height 1.78 meters. Spouse Barbara Cousins, M. 1950 to 1969. Rocky Marciano net worth $1 million. Personal life. In 1947, Marciano met Barbara Cousins, daughter of a Brockton police sergeant. The two were married on December 31, 1950. They had a daughter, Mary Ann, and later adopted a son, Rocco Jr. Marciano was a devout Catholic and often attended Catholic Mass during training and before a fight. He once stated, "The biggest thrill I can think of would be an audience with the Pope." Death. On August 31, 1969, the day before his 46th birthday, Marciano was a passenger in a small private plane, a Cessna 172 heading to Des Moines, Iowa from Chicago Midway. It was night and bad weather had set in. The pilot, Glenn Bells, had only 231 total hours of flying time, 35 of them at night, and had no instrument rating. Bells tried to land the plane at a small airfield outside Newton, Iowa, but the aircraft hit a tree 2 miles short of the runway. Flying with Marciano in the back seat was Frankie Farrell, 28, the oldest son of organized crime figure Lou Farrell. Marciano, Bells, and Farrell were killed on impact. The National Transportation Safety Board report said, the pilot attempted an operation exceeding his experience and ability level, continued visual flight rules under adverse weather conditions, and experienced spatial disorientation in the last moments of the flight. Marciano was on his way to give a speech to support his friend's son, and there was a surprise birthday celebration waiting for him. He had hoped to return in the early morning for his 46th birthday celebration with his wife. He was coming from a dinner in Chicago at STP CEO Andy Granatelli's home. Marciano is interred in a crypt at Forest Lawn Memorial Cemetery in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. His wife died 5 years later at the age of 46 due to lung cancer and is entombed next to him. Early life. Born Rocco Francis Marciano on September 1, 1923, Rocky was raised on the south side of Brockton, Massachusetts. His parents, Pierino Marciano and Pasqualina Picciuto, were both immigrants from Italy. His father was from Ripa Titina, Abruzzo, while his mother was from San Bartolomeo in Galdo, Campania. Marciano had 2 brothers, Louis, aka Sonny, and Peter, and 3 sisters, Alice, Conchetta and Elizabeth. When he was about 18 months old, Marciano contracted pneumonia, from which he almost died. In his youth, he worked out on homemade weightlifting equipment. Later in his life, Marciano was also a client of Charles Atlas, and used a stuffed mailbag that hung from a tree in his backyard as a heavy bag. He attended Brockton High School, where he played both baseball and football. However, he was cut from the school baseball team because he had joined a church league, violating a school rule forbidding players from joining other teams. He dropped out of school after finishing 10th grade. Marciano then worked as a shootman on delivery trucks for the Brockton Ice and Coal Company. He also worked as a ditch digger, railroad layer, and shoemaker. He was a resident of Hanson, Massachusetts. The house he lived in still stands on Main Street. During the Second World War, Marciano was drafted into the U.S. Army in March 1943, serving for 3 years. Stationed in Swansea, Wales, he helped ferry supplies across the English Channel to Normandy. After the war ended, he completed his service in March 1946 at Fort Lewis, Washington. Amateur career. Marciano's amateur record was 8-4. While awaiting discharge, Marciano represented the Army and won the 1946 Amateur Armed Forces Boxing Tournament. His amateur career was briefly interrupted on March 17, 1947, when Marciano stepped into the ring as a professional competitor at the Valley Arena Gardens of Holyoke, Massachusetts, being billed as Rocky Marciano of Westover Field. That night, he knocked out local fighter Lee Epperson in 3 rounds. In an unusual move, Marciano returned to the amateur ranks and fought in the Golden Gloves All-East Championship Tournament in March 1948. He was controversially beaten by Coley Wallace. He continued to fight as an amateur throughout the spring and competed in the AAU Olympic tryouts in the Boston Garden. There, he knocked out George McInnes, but hurt his hands during the bout and was forced to withdraw from the tournament. That was his last amateur bout. In late March 1947, Marciano and several friends traveled to Fayetteville, North Carolina, to try out for the Fayetteville Cubs, a farm team for the Chicago Cubs baseball team. Marciano lasted 3 weeks before being cut. After failing to find a spot on another team, he returned to Brockton and began boxing training with longtime friend Ali Colombo. Al Weil and Chick Wirgels served as his managers and Charlie Goldman as his trainer and teacher.